Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you very much for all of you for joining us. We know your time is valuable. Welcome to the third webinar in our webinar series all about staying ahead of ransomware. Today we'll be looking at proactive defense against ransomware, and we'll be featuring a live demonstration of the KELA Ransomware Protection Suite and Identity Guard. As some of you may know, if it's not the first time you've joined us, this is this is actually the third and last part of our webinar series on staying ahead of ransomware. We already looked into the cyber crime economy, looked into compromised accounts, and today is all about what can we do to battle and combat these threats. If you've missed the previous webinars, they are all available already on our website. So following this webinar, you can just go ahead and watch those webinars in replay. Just a few housekeeping rules. Although your audio is muted, you can ask questions at any time throughout the webinar, either through the chat with one of our hosts, or even better, just type in a question in the Q&A box. We will be leaving some time for questions at the end of the webinar, and we'll try to address all the questions that are coming in. Just so you know, this webinar is being recorded, and following the webinar, you will be receiving an email with the recording so that you can also watch it after the webinar is over. Besides that, we should be good to go. But if you have any issues with Zoom, just again, use the chat to chat with us, to contact one of the organizers or the host, and we'll try to resolve your problems online. We have one small change for today. Irina, who was initially planned to present, unfortunately couldn't make it, but we're in luck because we have Yuval Mond, one of our experts from our sales engineering team, and he's here with us. So Yuval, if you can join us now.
Yes, can you hear me? Just a minute.
Yes, we can hear you, and let's see if we can
Give
see
me
you.
And now
yeah, oh yeah, sure, and we can see you now. Okay, so with that, just to quickly present myself, my name is Amir. I head up product marketing at KELA. And as mentioned, we have Yuval with us. So without further ado, Yuval, go ahead, walk us through it.
All right, thank you very much, Amir. And hi, everyone. So as Amir already introduced me in a brief, my name is Yuval Mond. I'm a sales engineer here at KELA. Overall, around 20 years experience in the industry, with wearing multiple hats, from a web intelligence analyst to leader of research team, few product roles, and over the past 5 years in business operations and pre-sales position. As once again, very happy to be here and lead this third and final chapter of this series by KELA. And as we already covered the main, I would say, foundations or the theoretical background of this, I would say, this phenomenon of ransomware in the previous two chapters, covering from I would say the dynamics, the supply and demand, the motivations. By the way, highly recommend to if you haven't had a chance to go and listen to those fundamentals. So this presentation or this webinar will be focusing on I would say a live demonstration of how KELA helps your organization to stay ahead of ransomware attack and how we help the organization prevent and protect yourself from this specific attack vector, which is on the rise in the past few years. But before we dive into the live demonstration, perhaps just a few slides to recap and to put us all, and specifically those of you who haven't seen the previous two webinars, to put us all in the same picture. So we talked about valid accounts being, I would say, the most favored method for threat actors to gain access into organizations, into their target environments, and this is due to numerous factors that I think we were already mentioned, but just to mention a few. I mean, the lower, I would say, the relatively low threshold in terms of technical skills, the high potential value of this specific vector, and of course the numerous or the multiple monetization channels that allow threat actors to eventually gain money from this access. And we have seen, if you look at the table on the left here, you will see that in 2023, valid accounts were ranked, as the #1 entry point together with phishing in I would say the number one vector in gaining access to organization. And this rise, as we also mentioned before, with you know, in the popularity or in the rise in the valid accounts that are being, you know, the main vector for gaining access, goes hand in hand, or you can say is not surprised with also with the rise in popularity of information stealers logs, because as we've also discussed, the valid credentials that are sourced from information stealers logs, info stealers logs, or maybe we can say the weaponization of those access from information stealers logs is the main driver for what we know as the main driver for what we know is the market of initial network access sale, which in turn, you know, drives most of the ransomware attacks. So this is not surprise once again that we see that the rise in ransomware attacks over the past 3 years goes hand in hand with the rise of network access listings. Because once again, when we look at I would say the common life cycle of a ransomware attack, we see that in many cases it starts with, you know, initial access broker, this, you know, player in the ecosystem gaining access to I would say organization network, and then, you know, grooming this access, developing it and selling it to an affiliate of a ransomware group, who by in turn compromise the network, start, you know, escalating privileges, start lateral movement within the network until eventually deploying the ransomware itself, and from there, you know, start the negotiation with the victim and all the next phases that I would say drive the ransomware attack. We have multiple examples. Just to mention one from about 4 months ago, with threat actors gaining access from stolen credentials, gaining access to customer data belonging to Snowflake, and you know, this platform used by many organizations. Actually, they were able, using this access to impact or to infect or to gain access to sensitive data of over 150 organizations. Some of them are even, you know, major entities, for example, Ticketmaster and Santander, that are being mentioned here. But this is, by the way, also highlights the importance of monitoring and understanding and seeing, you know, any exposure that can come from all kinds of third-party and SaaS services that the organization uses. So circling back to our flow that we show here, we now understand, you know, that this initial access sale, or this access that is being traded, is, I would say, a critical juncture in the life cycle of a ransomware attack. Because if we can get visibility and if we can identify those valid credentials that are being traded and that are being shared online regarding your employees' machines, or regarding your organization, your organization internal services, we can potentially prevent, you know, those initial access brokers, these threat actors, from abusing this access, and virtually stop the ransomware attack and any breach from happening. And this is actually where KELA gets into the picture with our ransomware protection suite. Comprises three main layers. The first one, the strategic layer, that looks into, I would say, it keeps you in the know of everything, all the recent developments and all the recent happenings, and the main trends in this ecosystem. All the information curated by KELA analysts and actionable to be integrated into your machine. Beneath that, or, you know, aside to it, you can say also operational intelligence that allows you to proactively monitor your organizational assets and get the early warning and early detection of any exposure regarding your organization, with all kinds of enrichment and automation tools that I will show in a minute. And third, the technical layer that I would say that brings you, I would say, high quality proprietary IOCs that are coming from KELA sources that you can, once again, seamlessly integrate into your machine and make sure that you are protected from those I would say previously not yet weaponized IOCs. So without further ado, now let's go to the demonstration, to the live demo. I'm jumping to my to the platform. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to change the order a little bit. I'm going to start with the operational intelligence. You can see here the three layers: the daily highlights from threat landscape, the identity guide for operational intelligence, and the technical intelligence that just mentioned. Let's take a little bit of real estate back. And this, as we say, allows you to proactively monitor assets belonging to your organization. This is very easily very easy configuration. You can very easily and quickly configure the assets of your organization. By the way, what we are seeing now, of course, is a demo environment with simulated data. But I just want to show you, to get the feeling of how easy it is and how quick you will be able to get actionable intelligence you will be able to act upon regarding your organizational assets. So you can choose, maybe even a very, even a very high level domain. That's domain.com as an example. You can see the system starts internal discovery that uncovers all the relevant assets within your organization. You will see that in a minute. So we can now sift through, those assets of your organization, decide what we want to monitor and what we don't want to monitor based on our understanding of what's critical and less critical. And of course, configure all many other parameters, which we're not going to do now because we want to show a few examples from this specific workspace. You can see the results very straightforward. You get actionable intelligence immediately once you set up the environment, this specific workspace. A matter of 30 seconds before you start getting actionable intelligence. And as we said, on top of that, allows you all kinds of enrichments and automations to make sure that you prioritize and get to the relevant intelligence first. For example, critical resources based on KELA's best practices and based on what we know threat actors are looking for. And if you heard the previous session by Victoria, you can see that we actually have a lot of understanding, a lot of knowledge, a lot of, I would say, familiarity with what threat actors, with those critical resources that threat actors are trying to gain access to, because they know that this can be a door opener, or I say a window to sensitive intelligence. So you get the indication of this compromise in real time, because we tap into all those places and all those ecosystem and business ecosystems where those credentials are shared, and we bring you on top of that all kinds of additional information to make sure that you can remediate this as quickly as possible. So once again, you can prioritize based on the critical data, and you can see, we already flagged for you those critical resources. You can also dive a little bit further into the bot itself and see, for example, the number of infections that we were able to identify, grouped, aggregated all together. These are all information coming from the zip of the file, the bot file that was shared online with all the relevant PIIs and technical specs of the computer itself. So we aggregate, several infections of the same device all together. You can gain access, to those main services that have been targeted. You can see all other compromised accounts, all this in order, to make sure that you can identify and the relevant machine, the relevant employee machine within your organization, and eventually remediate this specific breach before it becomes, of course, a big problem. By the way, you can also access the source file itself and look into the other PIIs, cookie sessions, credit card details, if there are any information that is also exposable, or say available for threat actors who also see this data of this specific machine. Now I mentioned, a few off-the-shelf, enrichments, but we also can generate few automations of our own. For example, help you classify those employees based on rules that you can configure yourself. Once again, to prioritize and make sure that you get to the relevant machines first, based on any kind of I would say internal logic of your organization. You can also look into password compliance to make sure that you filter out all kinds of false positive and generate automated rules that will look into each result and will verify if this complies with your password policy or this one does not comply with the password policy of your organization. We mentioned automations, highly important to also highlight, because at the end of the day, as you probably know, and with experienced intelligence analysts, information that just lies there and not being taken act upon doesn't have a lot of value. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that information gets to the relevant people, to the relevant channels. So understanding that KELA can be also used as some kind of a sensor within your, I would say, centralized data centers, centralized system that gets information from multiple sources. We can make sure that the information is being seamlessly, I would say, seamlessly sent or seamlessly shared with your platform through the use of playbooks. So you can generate very quick playbooks and make sure that can be very granular on how you build this, how you build the rules of what you want to send, and make sure the information is, by the way, also reaching different departments. If you have the department dealing with fraud, then you will be able to see consumer data. If you want the IT department, to get all kinds of alerts regarding accesses to your VPN network, Active Directory, federated services, all of this can be supported with this layer, with this operational layer. Just to mention also the market bots, the bots coming from another ecosystem or another business model that we discussed. I think it was in Ravid's presentation. So we also cover, for those devices or those compromised machines that are being shared without the username and password. In order to see them, you actually need to take some kind of action and acquire the data from the market. So we will have visibility to all the different business models, all the different places online where threat actors share this kind of information. So I started with the operational intelligence because I wanted to show you, first of all, the configuration, how it affects your organization in specific. I'm now going to move, one layer up, you can say, towards talking about, I would say, the strategic intelligence that once again keeps you in the know of all the relevant, of all the main events, recent developments within this ecosystem. You are getting a daily feed of all the interesting I would say incidents over the past 24 hours. This information has already been curated by KELA to highlight, and you can see the summary. The information is highly contextualized and is also once again categorized and can be imported and exported into your internal systems with all the relevant categorization, all the relevant context, and of course IOCs that are relating to each and every incident. So once again, you're getting actionable intelligence about new malware that have been exposed. You are getting information about new APT campaigns, about new vulnerabilities that are being identified or being patched. So you can build your entire defense strategy around also the trends and everything that happens in the world at the moment. So this is just one example of malware that has been identified. Of course, there are other examples, for example, of activity around espionage activity around the 2024 US elections, and all kinds of other types of threats and other types of indications to just keep you in the know of what is happening. Now, we mentioned IOCs, and we showed IOCs industry standards. IOC, I think it was in this example here. But we mentioned that we also have the KELA IOCs, proprietary IOCs that are being sourced automatically from our sources, from the sources that we cover on a daily basis. So we make sure that whenever we come across a potentially a malicious indication of an IP, of a domain that we know threat actors are sharing with. They have, we don't have any indication of whether, you know, this IP, this RDP server, this malware infected endpoint has actually been weaponized by any kind of threat actors, starting from, basic activists to APT nation state actors. But we can, you know, at the end of the day, alert your organization this specific observable, this specific IP address is potentially malicious because it has been traded between threat actors online. So, and this fresh list, or this fresh repository of potential IOCs, what we call the KELA. The KELA IOCs can, once again, with API, can be streamlined into your internal system, and making sure that any communication coming from those sources, coming from those servers, coming from those domains, be either alerted or, in worst case, based on your protocols, actually blocked before it gets any communication within your network. So these were the three layers of I would say, of our solution. I'm now getting back to our...
Maybe if you could stick on the demo, because we did have a question come in, and go back to Identity Guard. So best to do it on the demo.
Okay.
If we can move, there was somebody asked a question just to clarify regarding the alerts that we're seeing, and maybe if you can filter out the critical alerts, also that'd be good.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the question was, are these alerts actually? It seems there was a confusion based on the question if these alerts are actually credentials that we've discovered, or infected machines, or what is the relation?
So these alerts are matching of the domains and I would say the asset that you have identified when you configured your monitor or your workspace. These are matches that are coming from our security data lake that we gathered from our sources. So once there is a match with one of your assets, you're going to get an alert. But as I said, the alert is not, I would say, would not just straightforward, no, this is the URL that was compromised, this is the username, this is the password. We also provide the entire, I would say, metadata package around it, starting from, technical specs of the device that was infected, when it was infected, everything else we can say about device, and also, as I mentioned, allowing you the ability to download the zip file itself and looking into it yourself if you want to do a more in-depth research.
So in essence, I mean, the immediate remediation would be to either block the account or reset the password, and then more in depth would be to look at what machine was compromised and take care of that as well.
Obviously, resetting the password would be, the first line of action. But since you want to take additional extra cautions in making sure that this access hasn't been already weaponized or already have been exploited by any threat actors, there are also internal protocols that many organizations already adopt, looking into the audit logs, checking if there is any suspicious activity, new users that have been formed in the platform, everything that we know threat actors are doing or ransomware affiliates are doing once they get access to an organization environment.
Okay, great, thanks.
I hope that answers the question. We can, I will just jump back to the presentation just to wrap up. We'll see here once again the key benefits and what we just described. And we believe that these three-layered solution can help your organization prevent and be in the know of any risks that coming from outside your perimeter before they reach into your door, and before it is in some cases also too late to handle. Now we already started with the questions, so maybe Amir, if there are any other.
Yes, we actually have a few coming in. I mean, actually, I see a question now that's I think you just answered. It basically says if I can see what is the infected machine and its IP, but actually I think we just answered that. Well, one question that you've answered, but maybe worth drilling down. The question here is from where and how do we obtain the indicators of compromise? So maybe if you can elaborate on that. I know you touched on it, so.
Sure, maybe just go back to the observables. So this is coming, from all the, I would say, hacking discussions, the forum that we monitor, Telegram channels, compromised website, web shell markets that we also that we monitor, and any indication that we can get of a compromised website that is being offered for sale, and is being listed on these sources, we flag this as potentially malicious. For example, if threat actors, there is quite common for threat actors to share, for example, I mentioned before, RDP accesses. So it's quite common for threat actors to share, in all kinds of platforms, all kinds of sources they're using, either forums, Telegram channels, paste site, lists, combo lists, or huge compilations of available RDP servers that threat actors can later on exploit, to do bad things with to organizations. So what we actually do is that we automatically scrape the information from these huge combo lists or these repositories, and automatically in a machine readable format allow you to consume it and allow you to integrate it into your, for example, IDS or IPS solutions internal.
Okay. Let's see. There's another question coming in about multi-factor authentication. So basically, the question is, if I'm implementing multi-factor authentication, is this really an issue for me?
So I think this was also asked in previous session. We do know, that once again, as we mentioned, once this the source file containing the data and the information that is being generated by the infostealer, communicated by the infostealer, contains not only the compromised accounts, not only the I would say the username and password for the relevant services coming from within the employee's machine, but they also contain cookie sessions. They also contain all kinds of other autofills and PIIs, and mainly cookie sessions can be exploited. It does require a higher level of technical skills, but those MFA, 2FA methods can be bypassed with valid cookie sessions that in most cases, almost all cases, are also going to be on the source file that is obtained by the malware.
Okay, great. And I think we do have time for one more question. The question is, if credentials are being published across multiple sources, will that result in multiple incidents or multiple alerts?
So we actually have two ways of addressing this. One is, as you can see in this screen, I'm not leaving this screen at the moment, I'm keeping it here, with aggregating multiple infections over the same bot profile. So instead of pushing those compromised accounts that appear in multiple infections, we group them together and aggregate the information on one bot profile that you can see together. So instead of generating multiple alerts on the same device that was infected 16 times in this case, but it can be even more times in other cases, you're just going to see it one time. And also, I didn't show it before, but we also have this flagging of detection details that shows you if this specific detection, if this is like the first time we detect this specific valid or the specific credential, or is this like a recurring issue. So for example, just to sort this, this is, for example, something that has been recurring, and maybe this was viewed in November 25, but we have indication that it's also viewed later on. So this is not something. So this is how we can, address all kinds of duplications that we see coming from multiple sources.
Of course, this is a demo environment, of course, in the
Yeah,
in the live product where we're basically real time, but both historical. We're looking at both historical compromised and any new compromised accounts coming in.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when you just set up, turn on your workspace or your tenant within the KELA platform, you're going to see historical data, but you're also going to get push alerts in real time whenever there's new information coming from our data lake.
Yeah. Okay, maybe just one very quick question, quick answer, because I see it coming from multiple places. I know you also mentioned it, but maybe just to mention it again. The question basically is if you can use these alerts in my own, well, they say services, I'm guessing own procedures, or push it into other systems. So something, maybe a word on our integrations.
Yeah, sure. I think I mentioned it before, but the system is completely open for integrations either with API or, as we showed here in this use case, for monitoring and operational intelligence for rule-based alerts that pushes the information into your machine based on webhook technology that is pretty much supported by most of the tools that are being used by organizations today. You can very easily generate new integration, the URL that you need in order to push the information from one organization, from one application to another, and then you can, by generating this integration later on, putting it into the relevant rule, make sure that the information is flown, is automatically being pushed into your machine. Into your, I would say, internal systems.
Okay.
And this goes, once again, this goes across the entire platform. Also with the technical intelligence, the IOCs that we saw, also in the daily highlights in the feed. So everything can be exported from the platform.
Okay, great. So I think we've pretty much answered all the questions that came in. Let's see, maybe one or two more we'll try to answer offline, and we are actually just in time. So with that, first of all, Yuval, once again, really thank you for this wonderful presentation and demonstration, and also again, thank you for for future webinars and other great content coming very soon. And with that, I guess I'll wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Maybe Yuval, thank you one more time.
Sure.
And thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you very much for your time. See you again.